The conference room at Bradley & Cole Innovations looked exactly as I remembered. Glass walls, brushed steel finishes, and a skyline view of downtown Seattle. But the stunned faces staring back at me? Completely new. Miss Carter, the CEO of Stratus Forge, is here, their assistant had announced moments earlier. Then I stepped through the door. Logan dropped his pen. Evan's jaw nearly hit the table. I walked calmly to the head seat, the same seat where 4 years ago they told me I was too emotionally attached to help lead our family's tech firm. "Hello, brothers," I said with a cool smile. "Shall we discuss the acquisition terms?" 4 years earlier, I had stood in Dad's old office, staring at a shelf of family photos. There were plenty of Logan and Evan in suits at fundraisers, ribbon cuttings, and investor meetings. Just one photo of me, Jordan Carter, age 18, beaming with my prototype of a clean energy microgrid that won the National Student Tech Prize. "He'd always wanted you to do big things," Mom had whispered from the doorway. It had only been a week since Dad's stroke. She still hadn't touched his things. "Did he?" I asked bitterly, holding the photo. "Then why didn't he stop them from shutting me out of R&D? Why did he let them say I wasn't leadership material?" Mom's sigh was heavy. "He thought shielding you from the boys' egos was safer than fighting them. He didn't think you'd survive the boardroom. But I did, and I thrived." While Logan and Evan kept bleeding the company dry with lazy licensing deals and outdated products, I built Stratus Forge, from a 2-person startup to a major force in green infrastructure tech. Now I was back, not to prove myself, to buy the company they failed to lead. I adjusted the collar of my navy moon jacket, the same one I'd worn during my first failed pitch to the board. I was 29 now, the youngest Carter, yes, but also the one who saw the future. The conference room fell silent as I took my seat. Time to reclaim the legacy they tried to erase. Logan and Evan sat at the far end of the table, folders open and smug expressions in place. The board members, mostly aging friends of our late father, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Jordan," Logan began with that patronizing grin I knew by heart, "thanks for joining us. We've got a few things to go over regarding your involvement with the company." I raised an eyebrow as I took my seat. "You mean my role as director of R&D, the one Dad appointed me to before he passed?" Evan leaned forward, hands folded like a well-rehearsed lawyer. "The board's been reassessing the company's leadership structure. We believe R&D requires more seasoned oversight." "Seasoned?" I repeated, heat rising in my face. "I've been designing renewable energy systems since I was 15. My patents kept this company afloat after the 2021 downturn." "Interesting science projects," Logan interjected smoothly, "but this is about business, little sister. We need results, not prototypes." I scanned the room, searching for any flicker of support from the men who'd watched me grow up in this very company. None met my gaze. "We're prepared to offer you a generous exit package," Evan said, pushing a folder toward me. "And of course you'll keep your shares, but strategic decisions will rest with those better qualified." "By that you mean men with MBAs and country club memberships," I said, standing. "Guys who've never written a line of code or built a working prototype." Logan's voice turned cold. "Let's not turn this into a scene. The board has already voted." I opened the folder and skimmed it. The severance was massive, clearly meant to buy my silence. But they didn't realize that selling out had never been my price. "You think this ends with a payout?" I looked directly at each board member. "You pushed this through by threatening Dad's old allies, didn't you? Cut me out, or risk losing your contracts." Evan's jaw tightened. "Bingo. You have until Friday to vacate your office," Logan said sharply. "Let's keep this clean." I slowly tore the folder in half. "You want me gone? Fine. But remember, you didn't just fire a department head. You declared war on your sister." I walked out head high. Behind me I heard Evan mutter, "She's bluffing." What they didn't know, I'd filed the new patents under Stratus Forge, and the investors were already waiting. They didn't know about the solid-state energy core I'd been developing in my private lab, the one that could change the electric vehicle market forever. Most importantly, they had no clue about the conversations I'd been having with VCs who actually believed in my vision. That afternoon I packed up my office, 2 cardboard boxes, a lifetime of work. My team, brilliant developers and engineers I'd handpicked, stood silently as I left. I turned to them with a quiet smile. Don't worry, this isn't goodbye, this is the beginning. When I got home, Mom was already waiting on the porch of my Capitol Hill apartment. One look at me and she sighed. They finally pushed you out, she said softly. She didn't even sound surprised. Just like they did to your father when he pushed for solar infrastructure over legacy power deals. I froze. What do you mean, like they did to Dad? Her eyes welled up. Why do you think he got so sick, Jordan? Watching them sideline you, watching them gut his vision while pretending it was strategy? It broke his heart. Then why didn't he stop them? Because they threatened to break up the company, sell it off in pieces. He thought if he gave them control, they'd grow into it, that maybe someday they'd see what you were worth. I sat on the couch, rage and heartbreak crashing into each other. Well, they made their choice. Now I'm making mine. The next morning, I walked into Rainier Equity Ventures with my prototype and a refined business plan. By evening, I had a meeting set with their green tech investment lead. 2 days later, I sat with a patent lawyer Dad had trusted. He scanned through my filings, eyes widening. This is disruptive, he muttered. The energy density alone could flip the entire EV sector. I smiled. And they just pushed out the one person who knows how it works. Within a month, I had seed funding. Within 6, I had my own lab and my own company, Stratus Forge. Half my old team left Bradley and Cole to join me. I named it after Dad's favorite weather formation, because just like that, we'd be everywhere. Meanwhile, Logan and Evan clung to their outdated playbook, blind to the storm I was building just beyond their window. If you believe in rising from rejection and turning setbacks into legacies, hit that subscribe button. Because Jordan's story is just getting started, and what happens next will leave you speechless. They were so busy clinging to power that they didn't even notice the future slipping out from under them. Then came the moment we'd been working toward for 3 relentless years. A breakthrough. Our new battery system wasn't just efficient, it was revolutionary. Charging 4 times faster, lasting twice as long, and running cooler than anything else on the market. The day we announced the prototype, Bradley and Cole Innovation stock nosedived 17%. I imagined Logan and Evan scrambling, blindsided by shareholders demanding answers. But what they didn't know? The technology threatening their empire had been developed by the sister they cast out. I kept my name off the radar, hiding behind holding companies and encrypted filings. To the public, Stratus Forge was a rising tech unicorn, led by a mysterious CEO who never appeared in interviews. Until now. Suddenly, the auto giants came knocking. Tesla, Rivian, GM, Ford. But while they offered lucrative licensing deals, I had my eyes set elsewhere. Bradley and Cole, desperate to stay relevant, quietly reached out to Stratus Forge for a strategic partnership. They didn't realize they were asking their own sister for help. I let my CFO run the early conversations, watching as my brothers grew increasingly eager. They needed us. Badly. Months passed. Finally, a meeting was set with Stratus Forge's elusive CEO. They had no idea who would walk through that door. When I entered the sleek Bellevue conference room, Logan's jaw tightened. Evan looked like he'd seen a ghost. You? Logan barked, standing. This has to be a joke. I set my briefcase down calmly. No joke, I said. You're meeting the CEO of the company that's redefining electric vehicle power, the one you're desperate to partner with. Evan fumbled with his phone, trying to trace the company's filings. This can't be. We would have known. Would you? I asked, flipping open my laptop and turning the screen toward them. You were so busy gatekeeping you never saw this coming. 15 patent filings appeared on the screen. All mine. Breakthroughs they had laughed off. Designs they dismissed as science projects. You remember that severance package you offered me? I asked, smiling. I used it to build the future. Every single penny, I said calmly, folding my hands. While you were out golfing with Dad's old buddies, I was building the future he actually believed in. The board won't let this stand, Logan said, but his voice cracked. We'll fight any hostile takeover attempt. The board? I raised an eyebrow, amused. You mean the same board you've been bullying and sidelining for years, the ones who've watched our company's value nosedive under your watch? I tapped my laptop again. A new document appeared on the screen, fully executed and signed. Their eyes darted down the list of names. All board members, all approvals. Stratus Forge officially owns Bradley & Cole Innovations, I said. The deal closed last night. Evan's face paled. But how? How did you build all this right under our noses? Because you never took me seriously, I replied. You thought your degrees and connections made you untouchable. Even when your best engineers left for a mysterious new startup, you didn't ask questions. You were so busy guarding the past, you never noticed the future walking out the front door. Just then, the conference room door opened again. Mom stepped inside, calm and composed. Logan stood abruptly. Mom, what are you doing here? Supporting my daughter, she said, her voice steady. Like I should have done years ago, when you forced her out. Evan's mouth fell open. You knew? I've been on Stratus Forge's board since the beginning, she said simply. Someone had to protect your father's legacy. I pressed another button. The large screen shifted to a new slide deck. Now, I said, standing, let's discuss your futures. Obviously, some restructuring is in order. You can't just fire us, Logan protested. We're family. Funny, I said, that didn't matter when you fired me. I clicked to the final slide. New organizational roles. Logan, you'll be heading government relations. Might as well put those handshakes to use. Evan, you'll manage legacy contracts. Both of you will report to our new COO. The door opened again. Sorry I'm late, said Sarah, my former R&D team lead, walking in. Traffic was brutal. Evan nearly choked. She resigned 3 years ago. To join me, I said, as my chief operating officer. I looked at them both. The little sister you ignored just became your boss. Welcome to the future. You have until tomorrow to decide, I told them evenly. Accept your new roles or step aside. Either way, Bradley & Cole Innovations becomes part of Stratus Forge. Logan looked down, his voice low and almost uncertain. And what about Dad's legacy? Are you just going to erase the Carter name? For the first time, I heard something real in his voice. Not defiance, not ego, but concern. Despite everything, he still cared, at least a little, about our father's memory. I gestured toward the window. Look outside. They turned. Across the street, a crane was lifting a massive steel sign onto the newly completed high-rise. Our company's new global headquarters. Stratus Forge. A Bradley & Cole company. I read it aloud, then turned back to them. Dad's legacy was never just about a name. It was about innovation, vision, believing in possibilities others didn't see. That's what I'm honoring. Mom squeezed my hand beneath the table, tears quietly welling in her eyes. And there's one more thing, I said, sliding a final folder across the table. Inside were copies of Dad's original patents, the ones that launched this company decades ago. But these weren't developed here at the corporate lab. I pulled out an old photo, Dad hunched over a cluttered garage workbench, safety goggles on. Beside him, a 12-year-old girl with frizzy hair, oversized goggles, and a proud smile, holding up a circuit board. He worked at home. With me, I said softly. I was 12 when I helped him solve the distribution issue that powered his first battery breakthrough. They stared at the photo. Something shifted in their expressions. They remembered those nights. But they had never joined him. They were too busy with varsity games and social mixers to notice what was being built in the garage. This isn't about revenge, I continued. This is about continuing what he and I started. Building something that matters. The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Evan broke the silence. We really screwed up, huh? I nodded. You did. But now you have a choice, be part of something better or walk away. What's it going to be? They exchanged a look. Years of pride and blindness flashed between them. I'm in, Logan said quietly. If you'll let me earn it. Evan nodded. Me too, we owe you, and Dad. Good, I stood, my voice steady. Because we've got a future to build. The electric vehicle revolution waits for no one. As the boardroom emptied, Mom lingered behind. She pulled me into a hug, tighter than she had in years. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. Not just of what you built, but of how you did it. You gave them a chance to do better. I turned to the window. The last panel of the new sign was being hoisted into place. Stratus Forge, a Bradley and Cole company. Dad always told me success wasn't about dollar signs, it was about impact. Now, finally, we had both. The months that followed were transformational. Logan and Evan, stripped of their titles, began learning the business from the bottom up. For the first time, they listened. They watched as the science projects they mocked became the backbone of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise reshaping clean transportation. Sarah flourished as COO, orchestrating the integration with grace and steel. Former employees returned in waves, eager to be part of a company that embraced invention again. 1 year after the acquisition, we held a celebration for the full team. I stood on the stage, gazing at hundreds of people who had helped turn a vision into reality, including my brothers, seated quietly mid-row. 5 years ago, I began, I made a promise, not just to prove my brothers wrong, but to prove my father right. He believed technology could make the world better, that innovation could come from unexpected places, and most of all, that everyone deserves a second chance, even when they don't always earn it. I gestured toward the stage where our newest battery prototype shimmered beneath the lights. This isn't just a product, it's a reminder that sometimes the people you overlook are the ones who change everything. Applause thundered through the hall. As I stepped down, I saw Logan and Evan wiping their eyes. Finally, they understood what Dad had tried to teach us all. Success isn't about control. It's about courage, vision, and the humility to believe in someone else's brilliance. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is rewriting the story for everyone. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, not just to my story, but to the message behind it. I didn't set out to humiliate my brothers or take over a company out of spite. I did it because I believed in something bigger. An idea, a vision, a legacy my father and I started in a garage when I was just 12. If you've ever been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated, I want you to know, your worth isn't defined by titles, degrees, or how others see you. It's defined by your vision, your resilience, and your refusal to give up. So, if this story resonated with you, leave a comment below. Tell me what you've fought for, what you've built, or what you're still chasing. And if you believe in lifting up the underdog, in rewriting your own story, hit that subscribe button. Because together, we're building something greater than success. We're building legacy.